Hey guys, it's Seeney, and today we're talking about my favorite things about the GH5. So before I went out and bought a new camera for filming, I made sure that I did a lot of research. I looked around across YouTube, across a lot of internet sites to see what the general consensus was and have a look at what the footage looked like across a number of different cameras around the price range of the GH5. And I found out for what I wanted to do, the GH5 was absolutely perfect, have everything that I needed. So these things are my favorite features on the GH5. Okay, so the first one is the fact that it shoots at a 4K resolution. Now this is super important because when you're out filming and you're out and things are moving really fast, sometimes you might not frame up the shot exactly as you want to frame it. But the advantage of shooting in 4K means that you can crop into a picture without using resolution when you're exporting it and delivering it at HD. Now this has happened so many times where I'll be shooting and we'll finish the video and there's a couple of shots that we need to tweak. Being able to crop in has been incredibly helpful in just nailing those shots 100%. Now the next thing that I really loved about the GH5, which I thought was a really important feature, was the fact that you could shoot up to 180 frames a second. Now when I'm shooting music videos and the like, I use a bunch of different frame rates. I shoot a lot of my regular story slow-mo in about 60 frames a second. I shoot a lot of stuff in 120. And I do use 180 every now and then. Something else that I really like is that it solves those frame rates in the camera. So if you shoot at 180, when you look at the footage, it automatically slows it down for you. So you can see what the finished product is gonna look like and you don't have to take it back to a computer and then slow it down just to see what it looks like. It does it in camera. So when you're in the field, that is so good. Now something else which a lot of people loved about this camera was the in-body stabilization. And it really is great. I usually shoot with 3 points of stabilization. I'll have the optical stabilization in the lens, I'll have the in-body in the camera, and I'll also shoot on a gimbal for extra stabilization. But there's so many times where I've been shooting out in the field and all you need is just the camera, because the in-body stabilization just works so well and you can get some incredibly smooth shots. So yes, a gimbal will help increase the smoothness, but this by itself has some great footage that is incredibly usable. Something else that I love is that it's really compact. Like, it's very small camera, but it's very powerful. All the buttons that you need most frequently are in a great position. You have your white balance and your ISO just up the top here, as well as your record button. It's very easy to access that fast, and you have your two controls, one for shutter speed and one for your aperture. So if you're shooting manually like I always do, it's really easy to get to those settings that you need very fast. Even knowing it's a really small camera, there's so many things that you can do. You can put in a remote to trigger this camera in this. It has a port for the HDMI, you can put a USB in there, you can put headphones, you can plug a microphone in. It's really all you need for a run and gun setup. Something else that's really cool is the dual card slot. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can use this. You can get it to record the same thing to both cards as a redundancy. So in case one card screws up, you still have the footage on the other card, which is very handy if it's an absolute must get that footage. But what you can also do is you can have this recording endlessly. Record on one card, and then as soon as that's full, change instantly over to the other card. And the best thing is you can pop that first card out while you're still shooting and pop in another card. And you can continually do that forever until you run out of battery and get the one shot for however long your battery lasts. I have not had to use that feature yet, but I feel like that would be a very useful feature for some people. Okay, so one of the more nerdy components is the fact that it shoots with a really high bit rate. You can shoot all iframes up to 400 megabits a second, which is huge. It's a lot of data. So I hope you've got some spare hard drives. So a high bit rate means quality footage. It means there's going to be a lot of data in your footage, which is really important when you're editing and you're trying to pull certain things and certain colors out of your footage. If you have a lot of data in there, it's going to be a lot easier to do. So all in all, a great camera. There's so much good stuff that Panasonic have put into this camera. Now there's a couple of things which I'd like to talk about which I think that could be improved. It's really important to have a balanced view when you're looking at different cameras. It can't always be all good or all bad. You need to look at a few different things. So the first thing, a lot of people have complained about the autofocus. Not a big problem for me, I don't use it. I'm using manual focus all the time for videos, so it's not a big deal. But I can see how that could be a problem, especially if you're vlogging and you need to try and check focus all the time. Alright, the next one is the low light performance. Now, it's not great, it's not terrible, but it's not the best. I've noticed, especially when you start to crank up the ISO, you do get quite a bit of noise. So this is a camera that you do want to be shooting when you have a decent amount of light. Otherwise, the footage is going to start to get really grainy and you won't like it. But when there is enough light in the camera, it looks awesome. Okay, and the very last thing, which I hope can be improved in the future, is the screen. Now, I do love the screen, how it pops out and flips around. It's really handy when you're trying to film yourself. It's great. However, when you get out in the bright sunlight, it's very, very hard to see the screen. And when you're using manual focus, like myself, and you're trying to pull focus, it's really hard to see the screen. So I had to go out and buy an Atomos recorder just so I could pull focus properly in the field. If there's a little bit of shade, it's not too bad, but if you're working in direct sunlight, you'll be doing a lot of this. So yes, great camera, the GH5. The batteries do last a very long time for the size of them, so I can't see myself upgrading for quite a long time. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. My name is Seeney, and we'll see you later.